Welcome back to Radio Entrepreneurs. Again, my name is Jeffrey Davis, and I'm the host. I'm also chairman of the board of Mage LLC, the management consulting firm. I love entrepreneurs, and I'm here with Alex Dablofsky of Radio Entrepreneurs. Welcome back, Alex, my co-host.
Thank you for having me.
Our next guest is Ashley Reid of Wellist, as she is the founder and CEO. Welcome, Ashley.
Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you. So tell us about Wellist.
Yeah, we're a patient experience company that helps hospitals connect to their patient to support outside the hospital. Our first clients included MGH Cancer Center and Beth Israel Deaconess Medical Center.
You started at the top.
We were very fortunate. We started, launched our first product at MGH Cancer Center last January, and just have been incredibly privileged and lucky with our early success. So it's been a fun ride.
So this is going to be interesting to unravel this business and understand what your service offering is. But before that, what's your background?
My background, I graduated from business school. I'm actually the daughter of a cancer survivor, so I went to Carnegie Mellon in 2004 when my mother was ill. After that, I worked for Bain & Company in Chicago. I was an associate director at Bridgespan, and then really found my passion for healthcare at Philips Healthcare, where I had a number of global transformation and corporate strategy roles. They were incredibly good to me. I had the privilege of working on site in 10 countries all across the world. And I think that's sort of when I came home to healthcare before starting Wellist.
Interesting. So you clearly had the right training and background before you went on your entrepreneurial venture. Did you always know you were going to end up being an entrepreneur?
If you had told me 4 years ago that I would work for a startup, let alone run a startup, I would have thought you were crazy.
You might be right either way.
I fondly describe my, origin story as a psychotic break. But I became, as a data nerd, I became incredibly convinced that as much as 40% of outcomes were tied to unmet social needs. I saw firsthand how the hospitals didn't have the tools to address this. Specifically, we flew in 9 of the world's best medical oncologists to a dinner in Chicago, and I didn't believe them when they said their number one reason their patients were non-compliant is they could not get a ride. So I went to a major academic medical center and said, if I needed transportation, how could you help me? They sent me to a hallway where a team had assembled flip chart binders. It took me 1 hour to pull all the materials. At the end of that hour, I made calls for 4 hours. And at the end of that, the best I had was American Cancer Society said, I'll put you on a list and let you know 24 hours before your scheduled appointment. And so I obviously, through my mother, had lived that patient experience. And at the time, there was a lot of data that hospitals were going to need to be addressing population health differently, as well as patient experience. And so sort of at exactly the same time, my best friend's father died of cancer, and she went into preterm labor within 24 hours of his passing. And so professionally, I knew this was important. Personally, it was something that I could not walk away from. But I hadn't done any of the things that you should or do if you're going to start a company. So I hadn't done the diligence because I was really thoughtful about...
This came from your heart.
Yeah. And hadn't done the things you should do, like build a nest egg. But we've been incredibly fortunate. But it was certainly a bumpy ride in the beginning.
I like it that you sort of followed your heart.
Yeah.
You know, you went to business school, you were following a business formula, then you went for your heart, and now you're hopefully doing both together.
Yeah.
Is it a crowded field? Are you alone in this field? Are you creating the category? Give us a sense of the whole competitive marketplace.
Yeah, I mean, we sort of sit at the intersection of 2 major themes in healthcare. The first is patient experience, which, as you may or may not know, is going to grow from like a $6.7 billion market in 2015 to a $16.4 billion market in 2020. And so when I was at Philips in a strategy role, if something was growing at a 7 to 9% CAGR, we were very interested. A 20% CAGR is really unheard of in this space. But it's largely representative of a trend over the last 5 years of hospitals putting patient experience among their top 3 strategic priorities. And so what we understand is all of the implications tied to patient satisfaction, outcome, and loyalty, and how that provides economic returns for the hospitals. On the other side, so that's really a revenue upside of the equation. On the other side of the market, there's population health and social determinants of health. So as I mentioned earlier, as much as 40% of outcomes are tied to unmet social needs. And if that is the case, then the patient's experience really is not limited to the four walls of the hospital, but largely impacted for all of the things that happen outside the hospital. Do you have healthy foods? Do you have access to transportation? Do you have access to support groups? And so what Wellist does is actually build customized directories of thousands of services across about 20 categories that we work with.
So there's a whole technology component to
Yeah.
what you're doing.
Yeah.
Is it all in-house designed, the technology?
Yeah, we sort of built all the content and the technology ourselves. So we basically have an integrated patient experience solutions that really has upfront really advisory services to help our hospitals really understand the patient experience. Today, they can go to consulting firms who can survey patients, but we've actually been able to prove the difference between what we call stated preferences and revealed preferences. So what patients tell you they need is not actually what they really need. So for example, if you survey them, they'll say, we need one or two things. Typically that's something like transportation or where do I stay when I'm getting treatment. We've been able to show with data that on average they have 7 or 8 needs. And specifically these categories are things like home cleaning, integrative therapies, fitness, meal delivery. So broader themes around survivorship, wellness, and care.